Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the Stuff I Heard podcast. This is your host, Josh Peak. I'm looking into the camera right now. I can tell some of my hairs are astray. It's a little off-putting when you look in there and you're trying to get focus. Um, so today happens to be the 8th of July, 2020. Hope everybody had a good 4th. Hope everybody was safe. Hope everybody got away with all of their fingers and toes and nobody was hurt. There was a few things that I thought were pretty interesting about the 4th of July. I didn't talk about it on the last episode because the last episode was more about my buddy Greg and his podcast, 5 and 40, and more about the social situation of what's going on in America, our climate, our communication or lack thereof, or the need of, I guess you'd say. But for the 4th, we did go over to a friend of ours' house and shot off fireworks and had a great time. And I have enjoyed seeing the videos online of people enjoying the 4th, shooting off fireworks all over the place. One of the funniest videos I've seen was on, I guess someone in Los Angeles was in a news helicopter, and the headlines or the scroll at the bottom said illegal fireworks in Los Angeles. And there was a bunch of fireworks. I don't even want to use the verbiage I want to use, but there is a lot of fireworks going on in Los Angeles that was pretty impressive. I would wager that most of the houses in the picture were shooting off fireworks, and I don't know how long the video is. I don't quite remember, but just imagine the fact that everyone is quarantined at home. Everyone's losing their minds because they're quarantined at home. They can't leave the house, and if they do, they have to wear a mask. And one thing people hate to do, especially Americans, is being told what to do. And all of your family fun things are gone. You want to celebrate America. You want to celebrate our independence. You want to celebrate. I mean, think about what independence is. Think about the fact that we were a country of, people basically who felt cast out from their own country, trying to seek a better life in a new land. And in the process, we sort of landed in this land. I mean, think about leaving everything you love and know behind, getting on a ship that may take you eventually to this supposed new land. You know nothing about it. Up until pretty recently in that time, you thought that the end of the world was going to be reached and you would fall off the other side because you didn't know that the earth was round. And then you start hearing about people that make it across the ocean, and you're like, okay, you know what? Life is so bad here. Put me on that ship and let me take my chance. Let me have the opportunity. Let me have that optimism and that opportunity that's going to be around the corner. And they came to America. They established themselves. They fought for their independence from British control, and they set off on their own to establish their own laws. Now, we've been debating those laws ever since. We've been talking about what is legal and what isn't illegal and what should be and what shouldn't be. And it is a interesting study in what you could do if no one told you what to do. Like, literally, just imagine you and your friends are like, hey, let's make up our own laws of XYZ and let's come up with some ideas. And if you and your friends came up with your own ideas of how you wanted to be governed and the things that you thought were right and wrong, there is a bunch of holy crap questions that have to be answered about the future of the people and what you know and what you've been through. And you have to set up those laws accordingly. Okay. Now, all that being said, there is a bit of rebellion within you all the time, which is why we tend to root for the guy in the movies that is the rebel. In Star Wars, the good guys are called the rebels for a reason. We know as an audience that those are the guys that we would be, okay? Whenever we have a success as the rebels on screen, as a fan, as a viewer, you go, yeah, cool, we fought against the oppression. We fought against the thing that was trying to defeat us or the thing that was trying to oppress us. If you watch any movie, anytime there's the downtrodden or the ones that are treated horribly, you're rooting for them. You're rooting for them to survive. It sort of folds back into this whole thing of Black Lives Matter and the whole conversation that's going on right now because of what happened. And we're not American if we're not rooting for change, if we're not rooting for the underdog, if we're not rooting for there to be a resurgence in hope and a resurgence in doing the right thing and for making those who did the wrong thing punish. I mean, that's just the nature of America. So 4th of July goes off and Los Angeles has this law, no fireworks, blah, 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 up to a $50,000 fine is what the lady on the news says. And literally everyone on the TV is breaking the law. There are fireworks all over the city. It is lit up. It is amazing. It is beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful for a lot of reasons. It's not just beautiful because fireworks are beautiful. It's not just beautiful because they're defiant. It's beautiful because they did it in solidarity. They did it together. We're in a time where the news is really trying hard to separate us for whatever reason. I have no idea other than the fact of, I guess they figure if they stir the pot far enough, they'll get more ratings. Are you watching the news? If you are, you're part of the problem. Because they're not reporting the news, they're reporting entertainment. They're reporting their version of the news. So whichever one you prescribe to, that's what you're getting. You want confirmation bias? Keep watching the channel you're watching. You'll get exactly what you want, and you'll feel nervous and you'll feel afraid. There was a report a while back. I was working some ridiculous amount of hours and a friend of mine posted an image. I forget when it was, but there was a video of some people tearing down a statue in Virginia, and it looked like a bunch of very privileged, very entitled white people kicking the statue on the ground and hitting it with their Birkenstock and with their purple hair and their earrings and their nose, and saying stuff like he don't deserve to be a statue and stuff like that. And the thing rubbed me the wrong way because I thought, who has the time to do that right now? I mean, literally, this is when the economy was booming. It's not during coronavirus. It's not something new. It was vandalism, but it was also, I mean, if you look at the climate and the way things have turned, it's sort of understandable. Okay. I know a lot of people don't understand. I get that. I know a lot of people are like, this doesn't need to happen. This vandalism doesn't need to happen. Yes and no. Yes and no. Germany didn't necessarily want Adolf Hitler to be their leader. He just ended up being their leader. And there weren't a lot of Nazis. I mean, granted, there were some, but there weren't a lot of Nazis that were like, so we're going to eradicate all the Jews for what? For what reason? I mean, you got to imagine that everybody has their own independent train of thought. Now, you can be coerced. Anybody can be coerced into doing a lot of things that they wouldn't normally do. And I'm sure that Mr. Hitler had a whole bunch of clever little ways of ramping people up and getting them excited and getting them on his side and convincing them that they were doing the right thing. And that being said, I don't think that all Germans are bad in that situation. I think that a lot of them were just following orders. I think a lot of them were afraid that maybe this lunatic would turn around and go after them. Now, with that being said, I'm sure they built statues with his face on it. And I'm sure that after the war, there were a lot of those statues that were torn down, rightfully. Okay? Who would want to celebrate that awfulness? Some people, some historians. Now, with that being said, I know this is a controversial thing because a lot of people feel different ways about it. I feel different ways about it. I can't tell you that I feel one way or the other about it. I don't. I can see both sides. I watched a news report, or not news report. There was a video component of a YouTube video, guys talking about statues in Italy and how there's a statue of Mussolini. And Mussolini did really horrible things, not only to other people, but to his own people. But there's statues of Mussolini all over. And someone asked them, they said, why do y'all tolerate this statue? And they were like, we don't want to forget. We don't want to forget that this barbarian ruled us at one time, and he did really horrible things. And this is a way we can look at it once in a while and go, that's what we could become. So, I mean, there's both sides to this, okay? When Saddam Hussein was toppled out of power, his own citizens tore his statue down in a rejoicing celebration. They were so happy that he was gone. Now, fast forward, we see that he's gone now, and he's left a power vacuum, and the people have been at war ever since. That's so hard to say, like, what was right for those people, what was right for the situation. I know that we reacted in a way that may or may not have been justified. I don't know. I just don't know. But like with the current climate of everybody tearing down statues and being upset over statues and sculptures and stuff like that, I don't know that I have a good opinion. See, that's the thing, is like a lot of people want to have an opinion about it. They ask questions and they go, what are you thinking? I don't know. Like this is part of the discussion part of the podcast where I'd really like to have somebody have different opinions, because I'm sort of middle ground on this. Like I really am. I want somebody that's like, oh, they shouldn't tear down all this stuff because of blah, blah, blah. And I want somebody also to be like, absolutely, they should tear it down because, you know, so here's an invitation. Here's an invitation to you guys. You guys are listening. If you have opposing views on this, like, let me know. Like, if you and your best friend have opposing views on this, that'd be great. Let me know. That'd be a fun conversation to have with two other people. What is your opinion on it? I mean, the same could be said about the rebel flag here in South Carolina. I mean, it's being taken down a Mississippi state flag. There's a lot of people that feel very passionately that the rebel flag should stay. There's a lot of people who feel very passionately that it should go, that it's a symbolism of a symbol of racism. Maybe it is. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have any skin in the game. It doesn't bother me one way or another. If it goes away or if it stays, I don't care. It doesn't affect my life. It hasn't affected my life at all, ever. Now, when I was a kid, I watched Dukes of Hazzard, and they had the rebel flag on top, and I thought it was kind of cool. They would yeehaw whenever they jumped their car over a ditch, and Roscoe Pico train would crash because he forgot to say yeehaw. That's what I used to think would happen. Just because he didn't say yeehaw, he would crash. But I like these group of rebels. Again, rebels. It was called the General Lee. Okay? They were rebels. They weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing. They were making moonshine when you weren't supposed to be making moonshine. And that's kind of what the whole show was about. The sheriff knew they were bad. He was after them. Couldn't quite catch them. They were just too fast, too wily. And they always had that cool jump at the end of the show whenever they'd yeehaw. Yeehaw! And they'd land. And Daisy Duke, I mean, I just watched the show for Daisy Duke and the jumps. I mean, let's be honest. But I had no emotional tie to what was painted on the car. I mean, I don't care if it had 01 or if it had the rebel flag or if it had, you know, yeehaw written on it. I don't care. The show was fun. That's my only tie to that flag. It's it. It's that show. Now, my dad feels differently about it. My dad's got a sticker on the back of his truck that's got it. And, you know, he talks about how he loves it and blah, blah, blah. And it means something more to him because he grew up with it being more prevalent. I've had discussions lately about what's been going on in the past versus what's happening in this generation and the challenges that they're faced against now. And I don't think that kids today are tied to any statues at all of why they're important. And I've been to Washington, D.C. I've seen a lot of the statues, and there are some that are very important. There's some that are very powerful and very moving. The Vietnam Wall makes me cry every time I see it. There's a statue that sits out away from it of 3 soldiers. It looks like the surviving brothers of the men who died, and they're standing together and they're looking at this wall, and it's a powerful looking monument. It makes me think about the soldiers who died, and it makes me reflect on the willingness of some people to give up their lives for a bigger sacrifice. I saw Abraham Lincoln's statue up close at the Abraham Lincoln Memorial. Standing close to it, I was amazed at how big it is and how powerful it is to look at. There is his Gettysburg Address on the left wall as you're looking at the statue. It's engraved in the wall. His first State of the Union is engraved on the other wall. The State of the Union is not that interesting. the Gettysburg Address is pretty powerful. Our country's new. Our country is figuring it out. But at the end of the day, we still take pride in the fact that we're Americans. We still take pride in the fact that we're rebels. We still take pride in the fact that people say you can't shoot off fireworks, and the whole area of Los Angeles shoots off fireworks. I was so happy to see that. I was like, that makes me smile so much. I'm so proud to be an American for stuff like that. It's not hurting anybody. It's not doing anybody any harm. Celebrating illegal fireworks all over the city. She said, she sounded so concerned, like, oh my God, it's horrible. And I was like, seriously? It's amazing. It's beautiful. Good for them. Good for them. Now, there's some rebel situations in which you look at it and you go, oh, that's a terrible idea. Like, for instance, the stuff that's happening in Seattle when a group of people decided they were going to circle off several blocks of downtown Seattle and claim that they were a new state, a new lawless state where everyone was going to be peace, love, and happiness, and nothing bad was going to happen, and they weren't going to have any police, and it was going to be great, man. And then somebody got shot and killed, and they couldn't bring in anybody to help the person, so they died. And eventually the cops broke them down and got in there and calmed things down. I get it. Some people are frustrated. Some people are aggravated. Some people want to break away and they want to make a change. I don't know the right thing to say for that. I mean, I love that rebellious spirit, but like my buddy Greg, I'm also a bit of a rule follower. I'm a bit of I believe in law and order in a way. I believe that the law should stand in there and do the right thing. Now, I did grow up with some outlaw people, okay? There were some family members of mine that I was very close to who were kind of redneck gangsters. Let's just put it that way, okay? And they necessarily didn't ask anybody permission to do things. They just sort of did whatever they thought was right. And for the most part, they were right. They were taking care of people the right way, and they were doing the right thing by each other, and they were honorable, and it was commendable, and it was full of love. But if you crossed a line, then that love was gone, and it was time for you to pay the piper. Now, was it the right thing to do? I don't know. I don't think so. Probably not. Probably not. But it's what I grew up with as normal. Now, that was with half my family. The other half of the family was, very kind and considerate and law-abiding and oh, yes, sir, officer, anything you say, sir. Well, yeah, we'll take care of that right away. Two polarizing views, right? Which is maybe why I grew up having two polarizing views on life. I believe in the outlaw, but I also believe in the law and order. There's a kind of need for both. Maybe that's the American spirit. Maybe that's the idea. I don't know. I mean, again, this is all conversation starters. I want you guys to be part of the conversation too. So I'm throwing out some stuff here that's a little bit. I mean, it's going to rub people the wrong way. It's going to rub some people to where they want to say something. Good, say something. Let's have a conversation. Why not? So anyway, good for Los Angeles. Love the fireworks. They were beautiful. I love my own fireworks. They were great. Awesome. Yay. Here's the funny part. I know this just struck me as funny. Where do fireworks come from? Anybody know? Anybody? They come from China. Ooh, conspiracy theory. Ooh, I know there's conspiracy theory people out there right now. It's like, see, the Chinese are on top of all this. They're the reason for all this, man. They're just, okay, well, that may be true. It's kind of funny. We celebrate an American holiday by buying Chinese fireworks. Yay, Independence Day. Whatever. Whatever. It's beautiful. I don't care. So Elon Musk, let's talk about this. I'm going to pivot just a bit, okay? Elon Musk came out one day, maybe a week or two ago, and said, hey, I'm thinking about making some really short, tight satin red shorts. Who would buy some if I made some? And I was like, what? I mean, this is the guy who is in charge of SpaceX. They just sent their first crew to the space station. He's also making Teslas. They're working on a boring company that is able for cars to travel underground. He's also working on the Hyperloop that's going to revolutionize travel. Um, I mean, you name it, this guy's coming up with it. He's trying to make green technology like the thing. And he just randomly on Twitter goes, "Hey, I'm thinking about making these red booty shorts. Who wants some?" And then they went for sale, and just a few, I don't know, hours later, he posted, "Oh wow, already sold out. Who would have thought?" And I was like, "Wait, what?" so, so I looked at the shorts. They're red satin. You can look at them online, and on the butt it says the word "sexy," but the E is like the backwards E, like a 3. So like the cars, it came out with the Tesla cars. You got the S model, the 3 model, the X model, and the Y model. That was kind of a planned thing that they did whenever they released those models. Now he's selling red sexy shorts, and they all sold out. So here's my challenge. If you have some of those, or you know somebody with those, send me a picture. I'm kind of curious who bought them and what they look like. I mean, not that I care about. Anyway, you know what I mean. I'm curious. Like Elon Musk seems to be hitting on whatever zeitgeist of American culture is going on. He's like, hey, what if I do this? And like people are jumping all over whatever it is. So here's the new thing. Okay. He just announced recently that they're going to come out with Tesla tequila. Now, this is the guy that's revolutionizing travel, green living, and taking people out to outer space. And he's like, I think we can make tequila. What? I mean, I'm going to buy a bottle, obviously. And so will you. You'll be like, I got to buy a bottle. I mean, why not? It'd be funny as hell just to have Tesla tequila. I mean, at just random arm's reach, you know, hey, let's try it. Why not? Might be great. Who knows? Either way, it's a piece of history. Um, I heard Adam Carolla say one time, what would you rather invent, toilets or toilet paper? Or what would you rather sell, toilets or toilet paper? You may only buy one toilet, but you're going to buy a whole bunch of toilet paper. Well, Elon Musk is selling you cars. And let's face it, if you buy a Tesla right now, you'll probably never need another car again in your life. But you might want toilet paper. You might want to buy tequila. It's a consumable. It might be so good you buy more than one. It might be so good you buy a lot. Who knows? It's a consumable. So that's steady income, right? It's pretty smart. It's a pretty smart guy. Elon, I really want to be buddies. Call me. I'll fly to you. I don't care. I want to do a podcast. I'll smoke some Joe Rogan weed. I'll leave the job behind. We'll be best buddies. Whatever you need, man. We'll do it. Right now, my mom's listening to this, and she's like, "No, you're not. You're not." I love you, Mom. So anyway, my wife says I move around too much on the podcast. A lot of it is me readjusting because I get sore sitting in one space, especially when it's a long podcast. If you guys hear like a weird noise in the background, a friend of mine gave me a fridge, a little fridge. It's like little. It's not a mini fridge, not like you find in a hotel. It's bigger than that. It's a decent size little, like a half fridge. Anyway, I put it in the podcast room because why not? You know, I figured anytime I have guests over here and we do an adult beverage podcast, we could have some drinks in the fridge instead of a cooler. It's just an effort to make the podcast studio just a little bit cooler. So you may not be able to hear it. I don't know. This is sort of the test experiment. If you guys can hear the fridge like starting up and doing its, let me know. I'm just curious. I wonder if I'm quiet, if you can hear it, or if you just hear it or you don't hear it because I'm talking. Maybe my voice cancels it out. I'm not sure. I do have a ceiling fan on above me too, because it's really hot outside, and I worked up a heat trying to bring the fridge in the house. It's not real heavy; it's just awkward. Anyway, besides that, blah 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 blah. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts. Today, I listened to Timesuck, and it really bothered me. Episode 176 with Dan Cummins is on serial killer Joseph Duncan. Holy crap. I had no idea. This guy, yeesh. This is a rough podcast to listen to. Rough. I had no idea this guy was even alive. This guy was a horrible human being. This guy did some horrible stuff. And I'm so glad he's in jail now. There's going to be movies made about him eventually. It was awful. Now, I'll give Dan Cummins a lot of credit and his team a lot of credit at Timesuck. They did a great job of making it as entertaining as possible. But he even warned you. He's like, if you're kind of squeamish about this stuff, don't even listen to this episode. Just don't. It was bad. It was real bad. I mean, it's the kind of podcast that keeps me awake. It's the kind of podcast that is interesting in a lot of ways, but it's also the kind of thing that will give you nightmares sometimes. I mean, this episode especially. I listened to an episode of Your Mom's House with Taylor Tomlinson. They interviewed Taylor Tomlinson. I love Taylor. Great episode. The first half of the episode, they talked a lot about what's going on with Chris D'Elia. They talked a lot about their feelings at the time. Now, they record a podcast like a week out. So whenever they release it, sometimes it takes a week for it to actually get to you guys or to us, me included. And they were discussing the fact that Chris D'Elia, there's some charges that have been filed against Chris D'Elia for harassing underage girls. Don't know if any of that is come to true. I don't know if they're still investigating. I just know that the allegations are out there. And now some of the people that are close to him are starting to give their responses. Bert is not confrontational. Bert hates confrontation. He also never wants to be on the wrong side of things, so he's not going to comment on it. Tom and Christina both comment on it about it. It's a long conversation. It's a lot of discussing the fact of if they find out this stuff is true, then, he should be punished and he does need counseling. And, I hope that nobody was hurt in this incident. And Whitney Cummings has already come out basically just irate, just mattered and all get out. He, of course, was her co-star on the show Whitney. They were really close friends. Brendan Schaub and Brian Callen have talked about it. They're both very upset. They were both very, very close with him. I haven't heard Rogan talk about it, but I also haven't heard Rogan in a while. I've kind of taken a break from Joe Rogan. People have been giving crap to him and Joey Diaz over some stuff Joey Diaz did on a podcast a long time ago. He talks about 11 years ago, some things that may or may not have been true that he did. And if anybody knows Joey, they know that Joey is a degenerate. He's on Netflix's Degenerates. He did a lot of deplorable stuff. He was a cokehead. He was a cocaine addict. He sold drugs. He went to jail for kidnapping somebody. I mean, none of this stuff is a secret. And now they're trying to look at his past and go, oh, well, he's guilty of this other stuff. And it's like, yeah, maybe. Joey's never hid the fact that he did a lot of things he regrets. I mean, people want to go after Joe Rogan for laughing at his stories. Listen, some of the stuff that Joey says is crazy and way out there, but also sometimes he exaggerates, and sometimes the stuff he says is really funny. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to take the Bert side on this and go, I don't know. I'd rather just say that, I don't know. I'm not in that world. I'm a fan of Joey's. I'm a fan of Joe's. I've talked about Chris D'Elia special. I saw it when it came out. I didn't care for it. It wasn't great. It's okay. Something to have on in the background when you're looking on your phone. I I hope that the stuff with Chris isn't real. I mean, not that I care about him one way or the other, but it's sad to see like a lot of the podcasters and comedians that I listen to be upset over it, and the fact that he may or may not have been a predator. I mean, I hope that isn't the case for the girl's sake. So anyway, I'm going to do a quick podcast today. Yeah, I do longer ones when I have guests just because I can bounce ideas off of them and they make me think about things and I make them think about things and just creates conversation. So if you guys want to be on the podcast, let me know. I appreciate everybody who's been on before. Thank you to Greg for coming on. I know he wasn't planning on doing a 2.5-hour podcast. If you guys missed last week's podcast, it was amazing. It was really amazing. We had a good conversation. It came out this past Saturday, episode 239. Great conversation. You got to listen to it. It's really good. We tackle a lot of hard-hitting issues. And listen, amongst people, amongst each other, like we can come up with solutions. It's hard to come up with solutions whenever there's a large group of people. Whenever people get together, there's a lot of agendas and anger and frustration, and all of that stuff plays into the part of it where we just can't seem to come to a resolution. And sometimes when you're talking with a friend, you can sort of understand one another's point of view, and maybe you're not so quick to react. Men in Black, whenever Will Smith discovers there's aliens, Tommy Lee Jones tells him, he's like, why can't we just tell people about aliens? And he's like, people are dangerous and stupid and afraid, and a person's smart and sensible, but people are awful. There's some truth in that. So anyway, I want to say the same thing I've been saying. Get to know your neighbors, get to know the people in your community, get to know people that you don't know. Make your community bigger. Stop burying your face in just your cell phone. You don't need an echo chamber to tell you, you're right, you're right, you're right. Maybe you're not right. Maybe I'm not right. Maybe we all need to step outside of our comfort zones. So, with that being said, I would like to say that I'm watching Warrior Nun on Netflix, and it's really awesome so far. I'm sure this was a dark comic book at some point. What do they call them? Graphic novels, graphic comic book. I don't know. It's really cool. Really cool. I am probably halfway through the season. It's fascinating so far. I mean, I'm into it. I listened to don't let me forget. I listened to a really good Timesuck about Bruce Lee. It just came out this past week where he talked about Bruce Lee and how he rose to power in everything that he did, how he trained, how he lived his life, how he revolutionized the movie industry, how he revolutionized martial arts, how Dana White now calls him the father of MMA. MMA stands for Mixed Martial Arts. Very interesting podcast. They talk a little bit about Brandon Lee as well. Very, very, very interesting podcast. I'm loving Timesuck, by the way. Thank you to my brother Alex and my buddy Chad Powell at work for recommending me listen to this. This Timesuck has been very interesting to listen to. I really enjoy it. I would say I wanted to listen to the Egyptian gods episode, and it was the most boring episode I ever listened to. There's a lot of him reading off facts and getting the names mixed up, and it's just boring. It's just boring. I mean, listen, they're not all winners. I'm sure my podcasts aren't all winners. I'm sure there's a lot of these you're like, would you shut up? Okay, I'll shut up. Thank you to everybody who supports the podcast. Thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for being on. Thank you for all the love. Thank you for the shirt ideas and people buying shirts. Continue to send me pictures. I'm gonna put them on the Facebook page and on the website www.stuffiheard.com. Go there if you want to check out any of the episodes that I have loaded. There is merch available, all the fun stuff, all the love, baby, all of it. I love you. Thank you for listening. Y'all take care. And I forgot to say it last week, but cue the cow.
Guys, to give me more likes. Give